That overtime fights are the stuff of absolute legends. But what is going to really impact how these two teams are able to fight is the advanced pick and ban systems coming on through. Virtus.pro, as we talked about, really prioritize the cloak and dagger being removed from the side of Peps. Do they try and remove the Wolverine from the sides of Insomnia?
Taking away anything from Insomnia is a risk because Demon does still have options like Hela, Star-Lord, Punisher, and the Human Torch, which has been so devastating throughout these games. So far, these teams are potentially giving up Magneto, but it's not prioritized. They let Magneto go in exchange for the Loki. That is wild if you looked at some of the other team drafts where the second that the Master of Magnetism appears, they are scooped up.
Do Virtus.pro see money signs in their eyes right now? Is it a Magneto ban? It absolutely. It's being hovered. It's not locked. There's debate. It's not. It's a Luna ban coming on out from the side of Virtus.pro, as Insomnia still do not have the ability of saving a hero until a little bit later. Virtus.pro will be able to access the Magneto ban after they've saved Magneto for themselves.
This isn't the first time Insomnia have done this. They have not banned Mag previously in some of their earlier series, so maybe thinking that they have a bit of a rumble on it, and including potentially that Wolverine to try and catch people. We also have Nocta, someone else who cannot be banned out here. They have played 8 heroes so far. Punisher, Adam, Storm, Hawkeye without Luna Snow, Winter Soldier, Ultron, Namor, and Hela, and have played incredibly well on all of them. They are very similar to like a Tuzi, for example, who just cannot be banned out.
Well, speaking about being banned out, Virtus.pro yet again. Potentially one-sided cloak and dagger, as Insomnia are actually going to be removing Phi. So Fire Extinguisher gets taken to Johnny Storm. The Human Torch is taken out of rotation. Virtus.pro take out the cloak and dagger for the side of Insomnia, likely going to be leading into a save of their own so that they get the one-sided Terror Cape advantage. And that's going to mean that their break points, their time to get these picks, is significantly shorter in comparison to what Insomnia have to slog through instead.
If you look at Virtus.pro's last few drafts, though, they have leaned heavily into this Star-Lord and that Adam Warlock composition. Insomnia have the possibility right now to ban that Adam and try and remove that flexibility, what Virtus.pro have been leaning on very heavily, and they do exactly that, forcing Virtus.pro out of the little comfort zone they've set up for themselves in these last 2 series.
Oh, Insomnia are trying to force Virtus.pro into Psylocke. Virtus.pro, by the way, still managing to secure Luna and Psylocke through this mix. This is why Insomnia likely also prioritize having that Loki, and they go for the save of Invis Woman so that you can use your Invis passive to dodge away from the auto lock of the Dance of the Butterflies coming on through. Sparker's Psylocke is something that has been talked about since Season 0, where players said that it was the best, not just in the EMEA region, but in the entirety of the world. So to let this one go is definitely going to lead to a very interesting match. It's going to be Sparker versus the entirety of Insomnia's back line. Can they shut down this dive? Especially because it's not just the Psylocke that made it through, it's the Luna and the Captain America too. He's got all of the tools at his disposal.
It's given them a lot of flexibility. So far, VP have shown the least amount of characters in Ignite, but we obviously have months of experience showing stuff, like you said, that Psylocke. The first time it has appeared in Ignite for Virtus.pro. Will it be enough to try and break the backliners? Of course, they bring out that Captain America to capitalize with it. We also see Relaxing Knights forced off the Invincible Woman for one of the first times. They have been playing it so consistently because that Loki did slip through the ban phase for them.
Yeah, and Insomnia are not going to have the Magneto either, so they've got to go over to the Strange and the Hulk, which means that Demon is indeed going to be piloting that Wolverine, as both of these teams are going to be coming out of their spawns. The min-maxing comes on through. Jeff for the speed bubbles to get everybody out. Dark teleportation for Virtus.pro as well to give them that little bit of extra speed boost from coming on through, as Sparker on the Psylocke and Phi on the Star-Lord get ready to launch themselves into the backline.
Wolverine sailing on path, looking for an early pickup. Virtus.pro on point. They have Iron Bulwark. They have incredible mobility. Nevix put on the Venom for the second time in 2 days. But Phi will be the first to fall without Adam. They do not return. The Star-Lord swaps immediately onto a Hela.
Nevix actually goes for the Venom to be able to jump in, tether multiple players on up. The Sparker to get the most amount of damage off. Demon gets frozen by Saipei, but does not go down thanks to the Wolverine passive, and Insomnia still holding on. However, this fight has been going on a very long time, which means ultimates are about to be built up for the side of Virtus.pro. Saipei is spiraling towards that first fate of both worlds. Noxus trying to find a poke pick. Insomnia are starting to entrench themselves on this point as they have so much poke. We can see Demon hurtling around. Can he find the pick he's looking for? No. Virtus.pro entrenched themselves, not on the point, but inside the small room. And it's a space that Demon just cannot commit into.
We already mentioned, we see Saint Tavo. They try to target up into the skybox to look to see if anyone is up there so they get the good angles for the site. Lurkin taken out as Drindro showing this one-sided cloak and dagger composition. Dancing the butterfly into the backline, and we're starting to see the positioning taken by Virtus.pro, finding the Karmic Revival and setting on through for another counter pickup to remove that Adam, but they were able to revive themselves with the Cocoon to keep this as a 6v6. Nevix has moved on to the big clobbering time for the lockdown to look for the turnaround. Everyone's going to get locked down with the counter. Ryan Bagamoto, invisible boundary for the push on in. Insomnia going to try and take this. If the Meteor can land, they can turn this around, but it is completely blocked out.
And the Goddess of Death is still going because Meteor M had one-shot capability, but it also absorbed all of the damage that could be bringing out Fire's ultimate early. Spark is able to get a late pick onto the Invis Woman. Insomnia denied. One of their strategists are slowly falling apart as Virtus.pro are able to sustain through the fight and finally stabilize. But Insomnia, having been able to buy themselves that first cap, how long that fight actually ended up being, have bought themselves a whole 76% of the point. And the composition, the job is done. Away goes the res composition. Now we're on damage burst.
There is no reason for them to try and pick people to go in for long, drawn-out fights. They just need to win one, maybe two. So it's all about pushing in and creating openings. As such, Demon onto that torch to push on in. They've got Nocta to try and snipe people on the backline with that Ultron as they push on in. Sparker, though, is doing so much work, making it very hard for Sentinel to really find an opening as they're getting focused down so much. But Sparker will be the one to fall as Demon pushes on in.
That's huge. Virtus.pro was relying on the Psylocke keeping Insomnia's backline in check. Now it has to be an eternal bond because Virtus.pro can't afford the point to flip. Nocta counterplays it with the Rage of Ultron coming on through, but the Terror Kick from Drydro is going to make sure that Insomnia don't have the confidence to push further forward. Forever is chasing so many of the strategists. Back manages to come through with the Eye of Agamotto. Drydro is not able to dark teleport out of it in time. Gets caught in the phase change, but Fire's Goddess of Death catches two. Insomnia now only relying on the Rage of Ultron, and that's not going to be enough. Sparker gets the go-ahead to go on with the Dance of the Butterflies, and after that one, Insomnia falls silent.
Fi just saved their team that fight. Relaxing Knights getting a stolen ultimate onto that Eternal Bond, setting themselves up for what looks like a one fight. But Fi found two perfect shots. Lurkin and Relaxing Knights sitting together, and they are picked off fast enough to allow Virtus.pro to hold the point. Insomnia, they portal in. They get a very quick pickup onto Fi, and they push on in. 90% for Virtus.pro, but if Insomnia can clean this out, they might be able to take this round one of game one. That portal is keeping the reinforcements coming. The Loki firing squad up on the high ground is pushing on in. They're trying to keep the pressure onto the thing.
I mean, everyone from Virtus.pro is just forced into this small room. They've got to break past the torch that's laying the gauntlet down with this continuous spam pressure. Nocta's even back over to the magic so that he can try and utilize things like those portals and the dashes to maneuver himself around the point without getting picked in exchange. Drydro, though, was able to pull up the Eternal Bond. Virtus.pro bide that time, build the win condition, and out they come with the Eternal Bond, paving the way onto point. They flood with the Terror Cape, managing to catch so many players on the side of Insomnia, and that is the point finally going to Virtus.pro's side. But we said that we think that this might be closer when you look at these two teams, when you look at the past performances, than a 3-0 scoreline, and it absolutely feels like Insomnia are in control of some of these fights. They are looking incredibly strong at the opening.
It came down to ultimate economy, having the reinforcements coming in with the clobbering time, setting up, preventing any of the strategists from getting any of that healing output. Virtus.pro controlled that final fight even without having to strange in, which they do have available. As a reminder, it was not bad against them. They just have chosen not to do it. Instead, just going for quick reinforcements, like fire swapping over to that Star-Lord instead of the Hela, just so they can get back to the point faster. The exact reason why Nocta swapped over to the Magic, but being sent to the Thing, massively reduced their mobility, and they were picked off.
Fire as well on the Star is going to be much harder to lock down than the Hela. As we saw that portal fully directed on the Hela's location before Virtus.pro were able to give any form of feel, Fire was just gone. Plus, he's going to have Galactic Legend and Insomnia banned out of the Magneto, and the EMEA have no ultimate that can be used to absorb it, nor sustain it. As right now, they don't have a single strategist ultimate, so out comes Pyro Prison trying to buy themselves the delay. Meteor M catches them, but you have to be sure that it doesn't catch the rooftop. The Spinzy's still able to find the value, fading out the regeneration domain before we even start the brawl for the point, and that means that Sparker doesn't have to worry about the Loki AoE healing everyone back to full for his ultimate. Dance of the Butterflies comes on through, and off of that, Insomnia should be losing this first fight.
You can see the incredible chase potential of that Psylocke running on down to the Venom and making sure that they do not get onto the point. And this time Virtus.pro take extremely early control. We're seeing Insomnia. They are adjusting. Sentinel, they are moving on to that Captain America, inspired by Passimo, who saved their team so many times with this maximum sustain onto the objective, and now giving them some backline dive potential to keep the pressure on. They have Supernova, Eye of Agamotto, Rage of Ultron, Invisible Boundary, and almost having that God of Mischief. Everything is available for Insomnia. How many resources do they burn to flip this?
Eye of Agamotto potentially forever doesn't want to use it against the Vanguards. He needs the backline, but he's being bodyguarded out of it by Nevix on the Thing. Demon comes on through with the Supernova, and Eye of Agamotto finds its target, but a beautiful Terror Cape from Vidro actually manages to pick the Strange before Maelstrom can find the picks against Virtus.pro instead. Eternal Bond comes on through. Back in we go with Sparker's POV, catching both of the backline strategists, combined with Nevix's power off of just the Thing's fists. Insomnia are driven all the way back to spawn.
I asked the question, how many ultimates did Insomnia burn to flip? The question should have been, how many did they need? Because it was more than what they used. They used Rage of Ultron. They used Eye of Agamotto. They used literally everything except for that invisible boundary that they had available. And it still wasn't enough. Virtus.pro repelling them here. This Thing is putting in some absolute work on these long extended fights on the point.
They use Invis Boundary too. They sequester themselves in a tight space, which means Nevix gets a free go of covering time. He uses it before Invis Boundary. Lurkin tries to get the boundary off to save the team, but it's not in time to save the Loki. Major Freeze comes out onto Sentinels. He tries to just dive the backline and force Virtus.pro to have to turn their attention off of the point itself, but Fire's holding it down so low with the Galactic Legend. Insomnia don't have the shield pressure. They don't have the Magneto. They don't have any presence. And what looked like it was going to be a continuous back and forth, a very much chess into checkers match between these two teams, turned into a dominant Virtus.pro performance as we went into the falls.
Very nicely done. We saw the ban onto that Adam, thinking that might have been an option, but there was still that Psylocke. Like you said, Sparker just being allowed onto a different hero for once and proving that it still has a place. Virtus.pro with a solid opening, but again, we saw Insomnia moments of brilliance where they nearly took it. But Virtus.pro, that is vintage.
Sparker 24-1 is actually insane. 53% accuracy as well on the Psylocke. 14,595 damage by 20-2, and one of those was when he just got immediately accosted by a portal jump. He got mugged essentially by the entirety of Insomnia jumping directly on top of him. I think if you're Insomnia though, like, you go Symbiotic Surface. At some point in this matchup, you go Symbiotic Surface. It's by far the map that you felt the most comfortable, but we did see cracks in terms of the atom composition. Letting Sparker's Psylocke through the mix does mean that you have a hero who has enough mobility as well as the damage to be able to just fully punish the Karmic Revival positions.
And this thing, we have not seen it much at all. Getting massive clobbering times to lock them down. Yeah, you can struggle into these massive healer compositions, especially if there's triple strategists to make sure that you can try and sustain through these fights. They can't heal if they're being in the process of being knocked around by the thing. Nevix adjusting the composition, even though they had the Strange available, which we've been seeing so consistently. They decide against it, even though they had a Venom potential for themselves. If they did lock it earlier, they swap over to the thing because they know it's what they needed to just keep people in place. And it works, mwah, chef's kiss, beautifully.
Not just that, not just about keeping people in place in the terms of Insomnia's team, it also kept Sparker up. Damage reduction is attached to the Thing's jumps, and we got to see a lot of the time when Sparker was going for the Dance of the Butterflies, which can sometimes leave the Psylocke vulnerable as you come out of that ultimate, because a lot of the time when you're setting up your Dance of the Butterflies, you have to use your dashes, your 2 dashes, to get into position to be able to use them, and you might not have them back on cooldown after the ultimate ends, which then leaves you vulnerable to being picked. But no, they play perfectly. The Thing essentially being a dive target, no matter the fact that he is as solid as a rock. But we'll see if VP have as solid a performance in map number 2 after this break.
We are back with our game number 2 coming up. Virtus.pro sent down into the lower bracket, but have seemingly become the waking giant as they have been stomping their way through. A couple teams have given them a little bit of trouble on the way, but no one has yet been able to set up an effective roadblock.
No one has yet been able to set up effective bans against this team too, because like you and I, we were discussing it in the 5 minutes of downtime. Like, how do you even approach banning a team like Virtus.pro, where they have so much experience in the esports scene already, and so many regard them as having the best of a certain hero multiple times in that same role? So it's like, okay, we banned out the Punisher, we banned out the Torch, we banned out the Hela. Well, they've still got Psylocke, and Sparker Psylocke proved that it is still the best in the entire world.
Oh, they've been picking out a Warlock literally every game, and Sparker's been playing very well on it. Well, that's obvious. It's literally happened almost every game. Let's ban it away. No, that was a mercy. You will see the Psylocke come in, and you will have a rough time. Always in the backline, finding the Karmic Revival when it came out to literally immediately get a huge amount of damage and a quick blow up onto Adam themselves. This is the fear that Virtus.pro can instill in anyone they go up against. As we're starting off, heading in, will we see Insomnia adjust their draft as they are heading to their favorite symbiotic surface?
Yeah, this was one that you and I thought was definitely going to be coming at some point in this series, and it is now, as EMEA is going to get banned out. The last time Insomnia saved the low-key thinking that it would be able to shut down things like that Psylocke, still go for that low-key save. Maybe they want to pair it up with something like a Punisher so that you can use the regeneration domain in your ultimate cycles, as Virtus.pro continue the tradition that we saw of Burnin, banning out the Luna and then grabbing the Magneto for themselves.
This means they're almost certainly going to get that one-sided Magneto, as Insomnia will not have an opportunity to protect anything until right at the end of this advanced pick and ban phase. So where else do they choose to go? How do you ban? We've talked about it, and you can see them taking extra time. They're going to start off simple. Get rid of the stuff that can protect the backline. Remove the Loki. This is a solid, safe first step. But where do you go from here? Could we see one-sided cloak? Do they ban it out finally to prevent that Terror Cape?
Surely. No, it's still Fire Torch. Virtus.pro are going to get one-sided cloak and dagger again. If Insomnia lock the Torch, Virtus.pro are immediately going to be saving the cloak and dagger yet again.
Run it back, apparently, says Insomnia. Let's just do that again and see if it works better this time, as we will see Virtus.pro looking for the very, at this point, standard. How times have changed since last week. The cloak and dagger getting protected in this second protect spot. Insomnia, it comes down to one ban and one protect. This is where you make something matter. Do you mirror again and ban Adam for a second time? They look at Luna, which means
but that lets Psy
slightly weaken through the Psylocke, but it's still good.
Yeah, that lets Cypher. I was gonna say they've only got one ban slot left because they go after Fire's Torch, which means that they go for the Luna, not the Psylocke, as they will be able to save the Magneto at least. So if Virtus.pro do decide to run a Punisher on this map, he is potentially going to get shut down if the Meteor M reaction check is passed, as Invis is going to be the last ban coming on through. So we're not going to be having one of those lineups coming on out for Insomnia. This is gonna force them onto a really rough backline. It's gonna be Loki, but they're probably gonna have to go for a triple strategist lineup at some point, because they don't get Invis and they don't get Cloak and Dagger and they don't get Luna, which means that Loki's going to have to, well, one, copy Tritro's ultimate, and two, Loki Mantis is not going to be enough to sustain your entire team.
Let's talk about their composition from last time, from their match versus Rad Esports. How did they adjust it? They did run this Adam. They ran whatever strategist they could get. In one case, it was the Invisible Woman. In another case, they tried it with a Cloak and Dagger of their own. But then their last strategist for Lurkin was Rocket, using those extra revives and consistent jump packs to keep that Wolverine flying through the air. But running this into Virtus.pro, who have been given their Psylocke Rocket, is a little bit squishier if they're not near their team and could get blown up extremely quickly.
Not just that, Sparker is going to be perma-scouting the area, which means that that BRV station is going to be permanently found out if Lurkin's not able to place it. And indeed, it is going to be the Mantis, Loki, Adam coming on through from the side of Insomnia as Sentinel sets up a portal. They're going to be looking to try and grab one person, but Virtus.pro, see the animation? Everyone stacks on up to be able to care for each other. Can Demon find a grab? No, he can't. Virtus.pro have already fully abandoned high ground and fall back to point itself, which means that Nocta should be getting a lot of poke pressure, but Fire gets bubbled with the Bulwark and to be able to counterplay, and Insomnia are forced to drop instead.
Virtus.pro, they are playing a lot of retreat play here, giving up a lot of percentage, but that's because they want to make sure that they have the right angle and the right timing with that Iron Bulldog on the Blasted Barrage. There is a Demon pickup, trying to focus onto Finzi, but with that Light Cloak, it's almost enough to keep them topped up, but Lurkin will get the finishing blow. Nevix is taken out, and Insomnia, they show why this is their map of choice. One by one, they are able to take down Virtus.pro, creep on in, and Nevix is like, all right, Wolverine's here, time for Thing.
My distance, Eric.
Time to go to Thing indeed. No more grabs, as Insomnia, they're not going to have all of the access to the flight of the Wolverine. A little bit scarier than Flight of the Bumblebee, if you ask me, as Lurkin is still on this Mantis rather than that Rocket, so we're not going to be getting the continuous super jumps for Demon. However, this Wolverine can still look for the grabs onto Finzi. CP is actually on the Invis Woman right now, having the counter grab, of course, physics to try and stop any shenanigans of Vanguard getting nabbed out early. It's going to be Galactic Legend with the Bulwark from the Magneto, already forcing out both the Soul Bond and the Regeneration Domain, as Nocta was a little bit too far away from the Loki's doppelganger side and was forced to invest the Soul Link to make sure he survives, which means that Sparker gets an absolute smorgasbord of targets with the Dance of the Butterflies.
Both of the revivers are taken down. They will come back, though, as Nocta brings themselves back through that cocoon, bringing the Karmic Revival to keep this push from Insomnia going. Making their way back in, but Eternal Bond for the turnaround. Drindro is in the backline, and they have turned to duel them. Do not let them get away with this for free, but a retreat up to the high ground. Drindro took out Forever and escaped with that Dark Force teleport.
Finzi's able to pick out Lurkin as well, as Sentinel is going to go over to the Groot, as we're now going to see them try and use things like these walls to give them that space to not go down to the poke, potentially take an off-angle play without getting instantly jumped upon by a Star-Lord, by a Psylocke, as Demon is pushed back yet again, quite literally, by the force physics coming on through from Saipe. Last Stand is in play for the Wolverine, as is Invis Boundaries. We're going to see the rock, paper, scissors matchup between the strategist and the duelist to see if they can grab them out of that space. Strangling Prison grabs them in an entirely different way, and the Meteor M from Forever scoops out Sparker.
This time they're all right next to that regeneration domain. Demon comes in with the last stand, takes out Dridro, and it's just back and forth between these teams. Insomnia are pushing on in. You can't pick up the thing, but percentage damage is percentage damage. Don't matter who you are. As we see Insomnia pushing on in. You mentioned flying the bumblebees. It's Wolverine, so it's flying the bumblebees.
Sparker is about to be dancing to that tune as well. We've got Dance of the Butterflies coming on out for the duelist on the side of Virtus Pro. Insomnia, though, it will be at the start of the fight. They've got enough bodies stacked. The Loki doppelganger is right next to Nocta. They're not making the same mistake of needing to overlap both the regen domain and the soul bonders. The fight is on the point. Nocta drops to be with the team. Terrakit comes on through, but the Atom is able to avoid it. Spark is still holding on. He's waiting for those resources to be burned before he takes center stage.
The first resource is burned. Everything else is still a little bit further away on the cooldown. Meaning Sparker, they have the trigger. Is soul bond available? Regeneration domain is, and that will shut this down. But now Sparker burning yet another resource can start to get onto the backline. Dridro coming in with that eternal bomb forces them into the doorway, meaning this is a very grouped up area where Relaxing Nights will get taken down. Immediate karmic revival, but reinforcements come in for Virtus Pro to make sure that they have everyone on the board. Nevix got trapped in there by the group walls for so long and still got out. Dragon Prison onto the backline, but Guardian Barrier says absolutely not.
Oh my goodness, Virtus Pro are able to turn it around. The two strategists both got grabbed up by the strangling prison, but the Guardian Barrier heal AoE from Saipe keeps them in the fight, and then Nevix on the thing just gets to punch. Ding ding, round two. Insomnia gets sent back and have to find another way to reapproach. That, however, is Finzi on the Strange. The teleport recontest has been burned from the time bank, and Insomnia do have their favorite ultimate to use too. The last stand from the Wolverine. The Spy sets up, forces out Insomnia to back all the way up. They're going to have to go for a hard contest of this high ground, which is exactly what Virtus Pro are waiting. Finzi's waiting in the wings. In comes Agamotto against the entire team!
A full team wipe. Nocta and Lurkin, they are not going to cocoon. They will head right back to spawn, not wanting to deal with that. Finzi not on the mag, so they don't have that extra Iron Bulwark for Phi, and they do not need it. You don't need to protect your team if your opponent's team is in their spawn again. But they're going to try and portal past, realizing they might have a quick timing here, choosing to fight on the high ground instead of being sieged upon. They choose to take the duel, pushing on in. Final stand, Galactic Legend for the turnaround. Though eaten by the Media M into the backline, snipes out Dridro. That's a big pickup.
That's a big ult burn though, and that's huge cooldowns invested. Phi with the Galactic Legend is still able to force out the regeneration domain from Relaxing Knight, who goes for the God of Mischief copy to set up for an invis boundary as the actual invis woman gets sent spiraling out of theirs by the last stand. Insomnia are finding the picks, but they still have to deal with potential staggers coming on through from Sparker, who gets fully healed up by the dagger down from Drudor. Virtus Pro can throw themselves onto point. Terrakit comes on through. Sparker tries to dance around them, but the sedation comes out from Lurkin. The Psylocke isn't able to tap, but Phi absolutely is. And Drudor with the Eternal Bomb is able to fully invade Insomnia's space. Sentinel comes on through with the Eye of Agamotto. Nevix tries to shut down the pressure with the Yamsi Street Charger into clobbering time, keeping them snared on up into the dance of the butterflies. And it looked like Insomnia will find the turnaround, but Virtus Pro have the answer. They shut the comic revival down.
Parker has so much map awareness, always where they need to be, cleaning them off the board. But Insomnia, they did get back. Demon gets the double, holding on with everything they can. They hit point number 2, and Virtus Pro, they look like they had that fight on lock. But Insomnia, it was the objective where the distraction was happening, while Adam is pulling so much attention in his Demon, living up to their name, cleaning up, and they push on in. Insomnia, they refuse to give up. They are admirable for that, and they might be admirable for getting the triple cap here as they push on in.
Beginning to think that Demon might need an exorcism to be fully ousted. He's got the fastball, he's trying to find the grab, but he doesn't match you off of the force physics coming on through from Saipe. Momentum is stunted by the Galactic Legend coming on through from the side of Phi. The Sparker is on the right side awaiting, getting them low! What a sleep from Lurkin! The CC shuts down the dance of the butterflies, and Virtus Pro were forced just with base abilities alone to send Insomnia back.
Demon has swapped over to the Punisher. They decided that they are done with that Wolverine, with the thing out here. Such a massive hitbox, and of course that flying Star-Lord. They're choosing to try and take them out, but Insomnia getting completely zoned out by Virtus Pro, who hold the doorway, taking out Lurkin. Forever gets Cyber though. They're trying to even this up. Relaxing Knights with the clone moving on in, pushing him with the Eternal Bond, but Sparker is on the flank, looking for the interrupts, just dueling out Nocta, keeping them out of this fight as overtime is ticking down. This distraction is buying so much time for VP.
Yeah, it's also stopping Nocta from getting set up for Karmic Revival, which needs the meters to be able to connect onto the bodies. Sparker was taken CC'd out of the ultimate, so has it back up almost immediately, but Nocta has the Soul Bomb, and Demon has the Final Judgment. Lurkin over to the Rocket, also has the BRB, so if a trade comes on through, Insomnia will be able to revive their players regardless. It's an overtime fight. Insomnia incredibly comfortable with taking these on this map. Virtus Pro out come the staggers, but there goes Sparker. Gets sent out of the mix. Nocta 2 now going to be safer now that the Psylocke has been denied the movement, the space to take down the Karmic Revival spot. Galactic Legend! They buy the space to deal with it with the regeneration domain, and then Demon buys them the pick with the Punisher, and immediately Virtus Pro are losing ground in this fight. Karmic Revivals come on through from Insomnia, but it's Virtus Pro's players that are falling entirely unimpeded as Insomnia's side. They've just got to deal with a couple of stray staggers. The Soul Bond is there to solidify, and it's a full push of Symbiotic in OT.
Never give up, never sleep when there is victory at hand. Insomnia just keep going every time. The swaps moving away. They see the thing on the board, they move over to the Punisher to just try and melt it. Immediately it's swapped over to the Venom to try and deal with that, to make sure that they're not going to be punished as hard. So Demon turns their attention onto Sparker. We are seeing the adjustment from Virtus Pro. They're realizing that, this different composition is a little bit rougher and we need some extra sustain of our own. They go back to Old Faithful. It's time for Sparker on the Adam Warlock. Dritro sticking with that Cloak and Dagger because it's insane, and Phi is going to have a lot of faith put in them on that Star-Lord.
Yeah, I mean, the Loki is going to have really good sustain in the form of the regeneration domains. However, the 12-second cycle of Terror Cape from Dritro is definitely going to give Virtus Pro the edge in terms of damage that Phi can do with the burst down. So the entrances to these fights, the Star-Lord with the barrage into the bubble coming on through from Finzi's Bulwark, that's going to be something that Insomnia are going to have to watch out for, especially because that AoE damage instantaneously breaks every single Loki doppelganger if Relaxing Knight stacks them a little bit too close.
Gonna have to stay split up right now. They've got the Loki firing squad up on the high ground to break that so they can get the initial angle. We are seeing Nemix dropping the portal, and they have a counter portal forcing the shutdown. Nicely done. Not going for a trap, let's just drop overwhelming damage and prevent that from coming in, and that is going to slow down Virtus Pro a lot.
Yeah, Virtus Pro weren't actually planning on walking out of that portal, though. They had the Mantis and the Widow.
Yeah.
And the Terror Cape coming on through. They were trying to find a one-shot onto one of the players from Insomnia, but Insomnia have double shield, so the Widow's not able to find a hole in the wall. As Phi now back over to the Star-Lord is going to be trying to find an engagement, an entrance for the team, slowly chipping down some of these resources. However, that's really Dagger Dome invested from the side of Dritro, trying to build up to this first Eternal Bond to have that immediate instantaneous out-sustainability in comparison to the other side. A huge barrage comes on through from Phi, buys almost 50% of the ultimate with all of the damage boost that was stacked on top of that Star-Lord. And unfortunately for Insomnia, they have no choice but to give the space. Demon has to go over to the turret just to try and hold the ground down.
They dropped a lot of damage. That did force a little bit of a backup out of Virtus Pro as Dritro, Sipper, and Sparker are all taken down. Insomnia, they are buying every extra second here to make sure that even if there is a triple cap, they can at least try and contest it, as they, of course, had an empty time bank at the end of that first round. Virtus Pro, they will back up, they will regroup, and they're starting to build that ultimate count. Blaster Barrage has been setting up a good set of damage. Now try and set up for a Galactic Legend.
Finzi's already got Meteor, and Insomnia don't want to start the fight until Forever has the match. especially because it's going to come down to the cloak and daggers. Both of these teams have the Hyperburst ultimate ready to go. Galactic Legend for Virtus Pro is going to kick things off. There goes the Meteor M. Fi utilizes the right click and just dodges out of it with the Stellar Shift. The same cannot be said for Saipe. Saipe goes down, and Final Judgment from Demon is already creating the space as they try to come on through with the Meteor M shutdown, but no, Demon survives.
Karmic Revival coming out from Sparkin, though. They've chosen to keep this fight going, pushing on in. Eternal Bond for the setup from the Relaxing Knights clone. The push on in. Demon was set up on the high ground, and they are wrapped around here. Frenzied arrival from Nemesis to the Blaster Barrage, but the Eternal Bond is keeping everyone topped up. Regeneration domain for them to retreat into as they push on. Forever's dropping extremely low. Aya Nagamoto for the counter in the doorway. It is an empty room because everyone who's in it is deceased.
That was an insane Eye of Agamotto from Sentinel, and off of the back of that one, Virtus Pro are in shambles. They've got to make sure that they get back to be able to regroup in time. 1 minute left. Fi's going to have the Galactic Legend, but that's all Virtus Pro have to play around with right now. They can buy themselves the poke to be able to build up an Eternal Bond, but that's sacrificing seconds that they can't afford. Sparker needs to be able to have the Karmic Revival to be able to match, as they've not been able to pick up a single tick. Insomnia can play around the point percentage, force Virtus Pro into overcommitting in this last fight, and then come back in with the last better hurrah.
Lurkin has that Cosmic Yard amplifier. The BRB is set up around the corner. Once again, in comes Nevix to try and create an opening fight. Has Galactic Legend Blaster Barrage for a setup as they put the pressure onto Forever. The BRB will bring them back, so it's still a 5v4 as Cypher was taken down. Here comes the Cosmic Yard amplifier for maximum damage as Virtus Pro are ticking down one by one. Insomnia, no sleep till playoffs. They clean out Virtus Pro. There's no Strange to Portal. There's 4 seconds left. Venom's giving everything, but they're all that's left. And Venom is slain on Clintar. Karmic Revival to touch the point, to bring Venom back, to try and delay. Insomnia will match it for with the Meteor M to buy time. It does not take down Fi, who's pushing in for the counter. Meteor M is blocked out by the Dark Force teleport, meaning that they're trying to go back in. Fincy getting healed up, but that's gonna be once again Relaxing Knights with the clone onto that Eternal Bond. Die by Sentinel into the backline. Demon is down, but Virtus Pro are relentless. They've got a sliver left, but they're running out of bodies. But the reinforcements are coming so fast.
They've got the Terror Cape, they've got the Dagger Dome. They're trying to stabilize on the point. The Bulwark allows them to walk into the heal AoE, but Insomnia have the Regeneration Domain, which is allowing them to hold firm and strong on this point. Nevix has Feast of the Abyss. Where's the Venom? He's trying to find him into the back line, and he's found it! Lurkin goes down, Nocta removed. Fi swaps over to the Strange to teleport back in and make a play with the melee off of the Terror Cape set up from Dridro, and I believe the Virtus Pro might be able to find A after all. Insomnia tried to hold on, but Virtus Pro remains strong, and we go to B.
Virtus Pro, they see Insomnia's legendary holds and they say, give us a go. Revives, delays. Nevix has swapped over to the thing, seeing Demon bring out the Wolverine to again keep the lockdown. Sentinel has their own thing as Fi is matching. The teams are mirroring.
The teams are mirroring, and we're about to see batter up. Who can have the better launch?
Cosmic fast
players not able to set up the fastball just yet. There it is. There's the confirmation. Sentinel's waiting for the wall to break. We launched the Wolverine. We're in the air. We're trying to find anything that we can. No, we don't manage to grab it, but we do get into position to use Last Stand as Drudor with the Eternal Bond is making sure that they are out of the way of the Wolverine as far from them as they possibly can to keep that ultimate going for the full duration. Terror Cape actually removes Demon from the fight entirely as Solar Resurgence comes out from Saipe, just trying to give Virtus Pro the stability in this fight. They know with how long it took to grab A, they can't get slowed down a single time. Nocta takes down Saipe, and that's going to signal Virtus Pro pulling back. They cannot afford to get staggered.
We've seen that Gamma fastball, the Cosmic fastballs coming out, but not yet able to find the targets. It's just the sustain from Insomnia where they're able to duel out. They're still on this rocket with these heavy multiple bodies in the front line, using that big repair mode and that, of course, Battle Rebirth beacon to stay in the fight. The majestic demon flying through the air. Vi forced to retreat as they were the one who was caught out. Will get back to their team for the sustained clobbering times available for both sides.
Yeah, Insomnia, though, have the high ground. They've got 3 lanes to play their players on in anticipation of that clobbering time, which they thought was coming out. That's an early soul bomb from Noctua, and they might pay for it. It's still going to be hold on, but it forced the regeneration domain on the end of Insomnia, and that knifed down those precious resources when this fight goes further. Dritter of the Eternal Bond's going to be able to continue the aggression from Virtus Pro's side. Nevix gets stunned on out, but it's not going to be enough, as Insomnia are still able to find the picks, disengaging back into the small room. Sparker has to try and stabilize the team with the Karmic Revival. Forever's not able to find the pick off of the Meteor M, but the Cosmic Yawn Amplifier from Insomnia's end matches Witch with the Soul Resurgence, and it's a matter of inches.
Everyone's grouped up, going in. Fincy finds relaxing nights while they were in that extra healing, but they're brought back with the Karmic Revival from Nocta, who saves theirs for that little bit longer. Forever is back. There's a sustaining. Demon finds Fincy and is absolutely wiped on the turnaround. Vi saving their final judgment, their last stand for the turnaround here. Finds Nocta, cleans them up. They have Cocoon, but numbers are heavily in Virtus Pro's favor. They are mirroring Insomnia with these last second pushes. There are no bodies left. They look for a wraparound. Portal comes in to try and delay it with 2 meters and 64 centimeters left, but Forever is immediately cleaned off the board.
Yeah, Terror Cape unfortunately connects, and that amplified damage is too much for Insomnia to be able to stand. And now it is going to be Insomnia having to teleport back to the C point spawns, which is going to give Virtus Pro so much space to be able to push up and ahead, as Insomnia cannot risk losing someone. Demon is off of the Wolverine onto the Punisher, trying to utilize the threat of the turret as well as the CC immunity of it to make sure that Fi on this Wolverine gets scout knocked out before the fight can properly start. As we can see, Virtus Pro do have that Eternal Bond, but so far up not to use it. They're waiting for them to feel truly comfortable that Insomnia are going to be forced apart with so many ultimates, and there it is. Eternal Bond in. Insomnia don't have the space to be able to give to disengage it, and the Terror Cape hits the maximum amount of players on the team, but there's no follow-up, as Insomnia just give the space, but that means they give the ground on the objective too.
Vi's looking for flanks, looking for anyone. If they could get Demon, that would be huge. Knocked back by the man cannon of the Magneto, but they're topped up. Final judgment for the push-in, and they're gonna commit to it with 23 seconds left. Final judgment on the push. Meteor Rem into the regeneration domain. Doctor has picked up and it will revive. They've got 93% onto that Karmic Revival. Sparker has theirs and has to drop it because that final judgment did so much value. Pushing on in. Sensi takes out 5, and they're brought back with the revive. Forever Meteor M takes out no one. It was a clone as Sentinel takes out Nevix once again in their second elimination of this fight. Zipper's brought back thanks to the Cocoon and Virtus Pro. They're running out of members. 5 seconds for Nevix. It's not enough. Insomnia even up the score.
We fought the second that we saw Symbiotic Surface. You and me, we've both been discussing how we think that this match is gonna go. And we were like, yeah, Insomnia for sure pull Symbiotic Surface. For sure they pull Symbiotic Surface. It's the best map. They've looked insane on it. They've come out from just amazing, impossible turnaround scenarios. 30 seconds they had to be able to beat Peps in an overtime, and they got the full push. It is no surprise that they're able to slow and then permanently halt Virtus Pro. As, oh my goodness, just both of those two teams, the fights that went on so back and forth, so long. Triple res against triple res means that these fights, they don't just stop. They continue after you find the pick, because you have to account for Cocoon revives, Karmic Revival, staggered plays coming on through. And when you've got one side with a Loki and one side with a Cloak and Dagger, every single bit of those resources can stop an ultimate, can stop a pick from coming through, can win you the fight.
Sparker put on one of the games of their life here. They got 23 KOs there, just the final hits alone, excluding like that grand total that they got by contributing across that Psylocke and that Adam Warlock. But Demon was just living up to their name, as we keep saying, because they knew exactly when to swap. When Virtus Pro tried to move into the Thing, they quickly swap to the Punisher. When they start to try and dive with the Venom, they turn around and deal with anyone on the flank, especially Dridro, as they kept trying to move in with that Terror Cape. This was an incredible performance by Insomnia on definitely what is looking to be their favorite map so far, and they're taking us into a game number 3 in this best of 5 with the teams evened up.
Yeah, and I mean, Insomnia, the entire team as well, making sure that the Punisher finds the value. We saw so many times, especially on C, like Meteor Am from Finzi, sent Demon's Way, survives it because Relaxing Nights comes on through with a clutch regeneration domain on the Loki, and gets an amazing God of Mischief copy as well to make sure that the Punisher is fully healed up to be able to forge ahead with that final judgment. Every single player on that team understood that when we passed into C, so much time had been just denied to Virtus Pro on both A and B that they needed 2 fights total to be able to fully shut down C, and that's exactly what they play for. Final Judgment buys them the picks, it grabs them the space back, and VP, they're forced to just invest Comic Revival in a really bad position where everyone can immediately round the corner and try and put pressure off of it. Dridor is able to peel for somewhat of that space off of a Terror Cape coming on through, and the blind comes out, and Comic Revival is over 10 meters in front of the player who does get blinded, so they don't see anything that's going on. But Virtus Pro, you can tell like how much troubles they had on C, because they knew that they wouldn't be able to fully regroup, but will be regrouping with map number 3 after this break. Well, so far our predictions for the day, Tetcha, are bang on the money. Not sure about you all in chat though, as Virtus Pro versus Insomnia, I know a lot of people are anticipating it to be a 3-0 sweep, but no. Insomnia dig their heels into the ground and say, we will not give up. We will fight you through overtime after overtime to be able to full push Symbiotic Surface. And now the ball, just like the Wolverine fastball, is fully in Virtus Pro's court. Where do they decide to take us?
This is not a situation that Virtus Pro are unfamiliar with. They have been in this situation where they've lost maps against teams before. Peps, for example, they've made it. Obviously, Burbo Patapim, Zero Tenacity, Luminosity Gaming. They have experienced losing maps. It's series where we've seen it so rare, which is why it was so exciting when Rad were able to take that victory against them and knock them down into this lower bracket. And Insomnia, they have shown something so scary that Virtus Pro took aspects of it to try and counter it, but Insomnia, having more experience, they adjusted faster and were able to take that map number 2. Virtus Pro, though, you talked about it earlier, they used to struggle a little bit in terms of domination. Now they're still not going to be able to play that yet because we're in the best of 5s. They have to choose a convoy map to go into for next one.
Yes, but then the map after that one, it can be domination again, Tetcha. It can be domination again. We're in the BO5s, which means that we can potentially see more than 3 maps, and the way that that is going to work is that you can't play the same map type twice. However, when we head to map 4, it essentially gets fully reset. So if you wanted to, you could play a convoy map immediately after this, but more than likely, if Insomnia lose this, they will be taking us to a domination. As Virtus Pro decide to take us to Midtown with an EMEA ban right off the blocks immediately, and Insomnia yet again going to be saving the Loki from Relaxing Nights, which has been the saving grace of a lot of Insomnia's fights. These regeneration domains have been working double, triple time, you could say.
This is the first team that has let Insomnia get onto that Loki, as Relaxing Nights up until now had one of the smallest hero pools of any player, only playing Invisible Woman up until this series from the research that we were able to have a look at, and now getting Loki almost every single game and showing so much power. They have stolen so many of Virtus Pro's eternal bonds that it's like they're essentially playing Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, and Insomnia too are going to be able to come on through with the actual Loki ban against Virtus Pro. So no God of Mischief coming on through from their backline, as Virtus Pro once again are going to be going for the one-sided cloak and dagger. Insomnia target banning out Fire's Torch. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as we've seen that in that last round of Symbiotic Surface, they were able to deal with Sparker's Psylocke. They weren't able to on Domination, however, though, so I would imagine Virtus Pro are going to want to try to have that one in the back pocket once more.
That one-sided cloak and dagger has done so much work for them. Here's that protection onto the Magneto. These drafts are identical. They have yet to adjust anything from game to game here. Virtus Pro, with their final ban out, is it going to be anything different? Adam.
One-sided Adam as well, because it's the advanced pick and bans, which means that if Virtus Pro want to, they can put Sparker on the Adam, so they have options available. If Insomnia are able to deal with the Psylocke, they'll just get to go for the Adam, or potentially they'll play the Adam right from the get-go, as Virtus Pro do decide to defend first rather than attack, and the Adam composition is an absolute barn burner when it comes to stall potential off of the amount of revives that's available.
It also allows you to just get damage boosts onto potentially a Punisher if that's the route you want to go. Set up a culling turret on that first corner and make it incredibly difficult to break out of spawn without having to commit to something a little bit scary, a little bit scared but weirder, like that Penny Parker rocket hold that we did see earlier on in the tournament, but has fallen off as time's gone on.
I wonder if we could go for it. We saw that Saipe was on the rocket there. And I mean, sometimes, well, in past metas, we would say the rocket is purely for either giving infinite ammo to a Punisher or a Bucky. That team up has since been removed. Or you would use it to give one of your duelists super jump with the cookie packs coming on through. But there has been a meta that has been established fully around mid-10 that you can see Insomnia are actually anticipating, given the fact that they run off originally on the Moon Knight Squirrel Girl with the Mantis for the damage boost. They see that Virtus Pro aren't going for the close hold, so it is back to this respawn that we go to swap off onto our default composition. It's going to be Nocta coming out on that Ultron, and Demon once more in the Punisher's pilot form.
Whereas once again, we are going to be seeing Virtus Pro lead on that Star-Lord. Nevix bringing out the Captain America this time with Fincy on that Magneto. So they have a little bit of backline pressure to apply to Insomnia, but with that Loki, they've got some protection of their own. And of course, Nocta in the sky, the Invisible Woman with the knockbacks, and of course that psionic force to pull people into a single spot is going to make it a little bit harder for the Captain America to operate as freely as they might otherwise like.
True, but they are stalling out the payload's process. Insomnia are getting it over the distance slowly but surely, but Fi has already, off of how stacked Insomnia's players are, been able to build nearly 80% this first Galactic Legend. Nocta gets sedated by Saipe, so the Ultron isn't able to bail them out, but comes on through with the Rage of Ultron, targeting the Star-Lord before the Galactic Legend can come through, which is absolutely massive. Fi should be able to self-revive and have Galactic Legend on the field before Forever gets the Meteor M, and the sleep onto the Magneto stops him from utilizing the ultimate at the start of it. But Insomnia, with the copy God of Mischief coming on through from Relaxing Nights, are able to stabilize the ultimate.
They're able to hold the line, but once again, Virtus Pro, they slow it down here. This has been their strategy. They're not committing to these big hold fights. They're just giving up inches as opposed to meters to give themselves any extra time to try and delay, as Demon will drop that final judgment and is immediately popped. Media M and actually got finished off by the Terror Cave.
Yeah, but Meteor M slam dunks Comic Revival spot. Forever knows exactly where they're going to be and times it just as they come out of the iPrime animation. And that should be this fight on a completed. However, Virtus Pro do have a strange teleport recontest play if they want to opt for it. And Nevix too on this Captain America is currently getting body blocked by the Doctor Strange, but he's going to be looking to launch himself onto that payload to buy Finzi the time to come on through with the portal before Insomnia can lock up A.
Demons brought back the Wolverine, realizing that there is this Captain America in the backline. Eye of Agamotto comes out, finds absolutely nothing. Great invasion. And those barriers by the side of Virtus Pro. But Finzi is targeted down by Demon, realizing how mobile Virtus Pro are. They're looking for pickups to try and burst them down. Cypher with that soul rejuvenation to set up. Relaxing Knights will go in for the clone on that invisible boundary.
Galactic Legends built up a fight, but he doesn't have the health bar to give the confidence to use it until now. He gets stabilized by his backline, but that allowed Insomnia to stabilize their positions in anticipation of it. He's only finding Vanguards right now. He can't commit into the backline until now. Dridro gives him the in with the Eternal Bond and gets grabbed out of it by the Wolverine. Goes down early. Bond divorced.
Finzi's returned to that thing to try and lock down Demon with the Rage of Ultron, trying to get onto Cyber in the backline to prevent that extra healing. Sentinel will take out Finzi. It's Karmic Revival. One-sided Adam is bringing him back once again, and we will see Virtus Pro delay with everything they can. The real invisible boundary, not the God of Mischief one, will be set up to try and keep this fight going for Insomnia. Final last stand coming in. Cyber is taken out, but in the meantime, Nevix is deep in the backline.
Freedom Charge versus the Stability of Regeneration Domain. Finzi's back on the thing for the Yancey Street Charge, but Relaxing Knight has the God of Mischief and gets the copy onto the Invis Boundary, and Fire's forced out. Saipe's got the Soul Resurgence. We've got the Meteor M off of the Eye of Agamotto, the Wombo combo from the two Vanguards. It's an overtime play. It's all Virtus Pro have left. A Soul Bond comes on through, a desperate attempt to get Fi. The damage to both the Galactic Legend before Insomnia bought anything to counter it. Out comes the Veil of Life Force from Dridro to keep the Vanguard stalling that payload so that Fi on the offlane can come on through with the ultimate, but he gets grabbed. He goes too low. The Vanguards have fallen. He has no choice but to throw himself directly onto the payload to contest it, and Demon is licking his lips and lying in wait.
Gonna go back to spawn, not gonna let the cocoon keep going, and yet another overtime point grabbed by Insomnia as they make their way in. Fi has been an absolute menace on this man from Missouri, but they have yet to be able to capitalize and put a stop to Insomnia as they are resilient. Keep pushing it, and they keep swapping Demon. Every time Nevix moves over to the thing, the Punisher comes out. Every time they swap off back to the Captain America, the Wolverine appears. And every time they need to hold a point, the Wolverine comes back to force people off the point. Insomnia are so quick with their versatility as Dridro is going in for another basically one-man army into the backline looking for anyone who's out of position.
Yeah, Finzi gets Demon as well, and the chaos. And Fi now with the Bulwark gets to come on through and look for latest staggers. Insomnia's A push was slow. 1,000 cuts essentially of payload objective pressure, and now they've been dwindled down to only a minute and a half, and off of the back of that early pick onto the Punisher, which is, like you said, now a Wolverine because Nevix is over to the Captain America. Insomnia have one good fight left, and they know that they're not going to get cleanly out of a choke, so a portal play it is. Rage of Ultron comes on through from Noctur at the same time as Lurk and drops the Invis Boundary to make sure, guarantee that Insomnia all survive the portal. And Virtus Pro just back on off and allow their players to get traded so they can get brought right back into the mix with Karmic Revival.
Meteor M at the ready to try and counter. Eye of Agamotto from Sentin finds the strategist, but they are healing. They've got all the sustainment. They burn the strategist ultimate outside of the fight. Meteor M going to be coming in from Forever if they can land it. From Finzi, sorry. Forever on the other side is looking for theirs. They will find Cypher, trading the 1-for-0. Wolverine taking on to Finzi. Cypher returns back to the cocoon from the Adam Warlock, meaning that it's still a 6v6, at least for the moment. Demon pushing on in, tries to get onto Fi with the Feral Leap, but there are at least two mobile. Demon's dropped low, leaping into the regeneration domain to buy a couple extra seconds.
Fi's got Galactic Legend. Dridro gives the aggressive play with the Eternal Bond, and Insomnia are running out of space. 10 seconds left. They don't have the means of dealing with it. One falls. If they run from the Galactic Legend, they run right into the crosshairs of Sparker. And because they'd already invested the Strange Portal in the fight prior, no one is going to be able to get into the objective in time to contest it and activate overtime. And that is where the payload finally pauses.
Technically over halfway, 1.100 meters, almost all the way to that back line, all the way to that point B. They were able to hold. Virtus Pro now on the attack. And they're sticking with that Captain America, looking to pressure the backline. Sparker has once again shown that they are incredible on this Adam, and making it one-sided is working a little bit better for them than it did for Insomnia.
Do Insomnia actually commit to this Namor? It's gonna be rough. They don't have the Luna. They don't have the Luna, so they can't damage amp the Horn of Proteus, but they might well go for the Namor because they're anticipating Navix on this Captain America just being the cat amongst the pigeons, or I guess the cap amongst the enemy team's backline. And you need something that's going to be able to stop the Cap America from just getting so much space for Fire and Sparker to do whatever they want to deal with.
This is how they adjusted in their latter half of Symbiotic Surface in their match versus Rad. They brought out that Namor to try and deal with people diving onto the backline. In their case, it was the Torch playing a little bit further back and the Venom trying to dive. But instead, we'll see them use it for a little bit of a hold. That's a jump scare, as they will try and at least delay. And Virtus Pro, once again, expecting a spawn hold, do start off on the Black Widow.
Ooh, but Saipe is the one that goes down instead. Fi doesn't find the opening shot, but the Gamma Squid absolutely finds the target that it's looking for. Over to the actual Star-Lord we go. The duelist making it out of the spawn doors. As Nocta already 35% to that first Horn of Proteus is getting full pocketed by the team right now. Virtus Pro know that they've got the one-sided Adam, so out comes the aggressive Soul Bomb, so they can start taking the space. But Lurkin with the Force Physics takes Nevix down, and Virtus Pro have lost the ability to have an off angle into the back line. They know that if they go into the main road fight, they're going to get out-angled by the defense.
Nevix has brought back the Thing, try and lock down the Hulk, stop them from leaping out, as that's what they're doing, diving in, diving out. Demon on that Wolverine, looking for anyone who's isolated. They've been trying to get a couple of these Gamma fastballs. And here is the play from Virtus Pro, wrapping around from behind to try and zone out this high ground position, forcing a removal of the side of Insomnia over to the opposite building.
But a huge exhale onto Nevix permanently stops the momentum from Virtus Pro's swing up into that high ground, and Insomnia have been winning the poke fight. They've already got the ultimates. Demon gets Earthbound, tries to turn around and dispatch the Thing in his back line, but Fi gets taken down too by the continuous pressure that the Namor is able to output. Eternal Bomb comes out from Dreadroid Forever's looking for the angle, doesn't find the Cloak and Dagger, but finds the Star-Lord who'd already self-revived. The Terror Cape and the Earthbound means that the Magneto can't try and reposition back to his team, but the heal is good from Insomnia, and Demon is about to be a monster in the back line that Virtus Pro have to turn around and deal with.
Doing a lot of damage on them, but Nocta and Forever have both been taken down as finally Virtus Pro are starting to capitalize, creeping on forward, heading towards that point A, meaning it would become a distance game. Demon is chased all the way back, and Fi does not want to give it up, but will not dive into the building, not going to get themselves caught out of position. And in comes the portal. Demon making their way back into spawn so they can rush in to this portal to rejoin. There's the extra invisible boundary to try and buy as much time as possible. Cypher keeping their team topped up with that Soul Rejuvenation. This Galactic Legend comes on out, snipes Lurkin, and is doing huge work on this backline.
Yeah, the Invis boundary had to be used from Insomnia to cushion the fall out of the teleport, which means that Fi just had to lie in wait for the Galactic Legend to find the targets that it's looking for, and off at the back of that one, that will be A. And it is a huge difference in time bank in comparison to what Insomnia had at their disposal as we headed into that part of the map. Virtus Pro already moving on up, taking the high ground. Demon going to be over towards that Punisher, trying to just find a pick, buy time for his team to stabilize. Nocta even going over to the Heller, a hit scan to be able to match wits and duel Sparker and Fi, but Nevix and Fi are lying in wait around the corner, and it means that Sentinel on this Strange is going to be taking damage directly to the face.
Doing as much damage as they can, gets pulled in by that Soul Siphon. But Nevix, Fincy, Fi taken out. They run into the Punisher, who with the shotgun is holding their yard, trying to take them down. Sparker, they're trying to stagger them to buy extra time. 3 minutes remaining. Every second matters here. And Insomnia, look at how long they're going to leave this. That is so big for them.
Yeah. It's not a matter of get off my lawn, it's stay on it for as long as we possibly can, because we need to buy the time back after losing that fast. Sparker is actually committing the cocoon instead of revisiting the spawn room. They've got Karmic Revival, they've also got Eternal Bond. They want to go now as Noctis slows the push down. Goddess of Death denies, and the team's been split. One made it all the way to the high ground, and the rest still stuck behind. They can't go until Goddess of Death has burnt through, but that's allowed Insomnia to stabilize a position for Demon with that final judgment to be the thing of threat. Virtus.pro have to worry about Finzi with the Bulwark, survives the force physics as Dridro, an aggressive Eternal Bond, denies the off-angle space for Insomnia's duelists.
Lovely block onto the media M. Ayamangamoto is going to lock down Nevix as they move in with the invisible boundary. Final judgment from Demon with the steal once again from Relaxing Knights, and it's gonna once again be Insomnia dominating these fights, but they burn even more resources, burning that God of Mischief to steal that Eternal Bond once again. All they have left is Meteor M. 46% on Goddess of Death, 35 on Aya Wakamoto, 21 on Invisible Boundary. Compare that to Virtus.pro. Soul Rejuvenation, Karmic Revival, Galactic Legend, all at the ready, and they only need to push another 6 meters.
Yeah, Nevix is over to the Captain America to provide threat on that objective and also into that backline. Fire's already been able to dispatch the Punisher, can now look for the backline itself. Galactic Legend comes on through, gets absorbed by Meteor and the Magneto, also getting the Guardian Shield to be able to fall back onto. Regen Domain invested from Insomnia to trying to hold the line, keep a body on the cart to buy the time to come through for the contest, but it's not enough. Virtus.pro knew they just had to slowly inch that payload closer and closer to the finish line every single fight, driving Insomnia's resources further down and further down until eventually they hit rock bottom and the revive composition could come on through, swing the first stage of a fight. If it goes south, it's okay. You've got the reses. You can out-sustain your opponent.
An incredible sustain. Like you said, the one-sided Adam for those out sustains just keep the bodies up. They tried to adjust and they were winning fights, but you can only win so many fights if your opponent is infinite. Consistently coming back, consistently piling on the pressure. 20 KOs for the side of Fi, 26 for Nocta, who really put on a huge show for their team to try and turn this round. What we did see is the difference between how many of these Aya Wakamotos did land. While the Media M's were on point, Sentinel, it's not even something they're doing, it's just how well Virtus.pro are able to position to make sure that they're not going to be set up every single time.
Yeah, and I mean, even if Aya Wakamoto does land, Virtus.pro have the resources that they've always put to the side in anticipation of that ultimate coming on through. Sparker with the Soul Bond, Saipe as well, making sure that we've got the most amount of seeds to set up for the heals, and then Dridro, the Veil of Light Forces coming on through from this Cloak and Dagger for that 15% kill boost that just allows them to survive past the break point that would normally break the camel's back when you look at the damage that the Strange can do with follow-up of that Maelstrom of Madness. Virtus.pro just adapting, out-adapting. We knew that this series would be a matter of evolution, that these two teams would be coming in and we'd be seeing continuous changes, and we're getting to see it live in play. Demon just back and forth, Nevix back and forth, Sparker back and forth, back and forth. Now we have to see where the coin lands. Is it going to be a domination map that Insomnia decide to take us to, or do they flip the script entirely and take us to another map?
We've still got some good convergences and convoys like that, although we did just see the convoy getting dropped here. So potentially if convergence is an option, we have Dracula's Castle at the ready. But we'll have to find out as we're going to be heading to a quick break. And when we return, we will see if Insomnia can create the resurgence versus Virtus.pro, or if Virtus.pro will punch their ticket to the group finals. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Virtus.pro now one map away from securing their spot in that group finals and getting that higher seed. But Insomnia have been taking them to the limit over and over again. But they just can't seem to tip it over the edge sometimes. As this case, Virtus.pro were able to lock them down.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like Insomnia are a very, very strong team. Like, a lot of people have slept on them, but they have significant potential. And we're getting to see, like, there are fights where they are just overwhelming Virtus.pro, but then Virtus.pro have the read. They understand, like, okay, this is going to be your side advantage at the beginning of the fight, but as long as you don't manage to find any picks on our side, we can come through and win the second stage. And that's sort of how you play triple res, which, I mean, makes sense. They were on a triple res composition. Now that you're Insomnia, when we move into the picks and bans, even when you move into the map type, do you take us somewhere where you want to go for that triple res mirror? Do you just try and ban out the Sparker Atom yet again? But one thing that we're unfortunately not getting to see are some heroes that were in play for Season 1 and have since disappeared in Season 2, but you can still play them and you can still find a lot of value with them, with our wonderful cosmetics too. Drip before viability is my motto of choice, and these skins are absolutely dripped out. Iron Fist, Binary Fist, and Moon Knight Phoenix Knight are in the game score right now. If you boot up the game, you will be able to purchase them.
The sun haunts you with the Phoenix doing huge damage from that Moon Knight, making everything on fire. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And then, of course, the Binary Fist, the Binary Magneto looks gorgeous. This skin is no different. The Binary is ones and zeros. The one is punch. The zero is also punch. It's just so strong. We even saw a little bit of Iron Fist at the start of Season 2, but Season 2.5, it fell out a little bit. But we've been seeing a couple teams, including Low 9, for example, swap onto it for the fast rollouts, and the fact it's one of the more sustainy divers in terms of the melee duelists when everything else has already been taken, to at least try to hold a point in overtime.
Yeah, sustain definitely feels like a good segue to talk about what we think is going to be what Insomnia decide to do against Virtus.pro. As Virtus.pro won Midtown, Insomnia now get the opportunity to take us to any map type. The BO5s, the rules, the maps coming on through mean that if we go into map number 4, it gets reset entirely. The order is fully now reset to take us either to a convergence, a convoy, or a domination, as Insomnia decide to swerve convoy, swerve domination, and take us to convergence. Whole of Dejalia is where they believe they're going to be able to take a second map off of Virtus.pro and continue to be able to match wits up into that grand final.
And so far the drafts remain pretty much the same, starting with these EMEA bans. Insomnia now with their chance to protect. They've been putting a lot of protection onto this Loki, and this game will be no different. This is going to be the Virtus.pro will get a protection onto the Magneto, but the question is, will they let it slip through as far as they have been so far, giving it to Insomnia every time?
Yeah, they have been liking to ban the Luna second, and it is again going to come on through, as both of these teams do like having options left open to them, so that one plan works for a little bit and then the other team adapts, and then they have to go and readjust. Has been very much the storyline of the series thus far, as Virtus.pro will be able to secure a Magneto for their side. Insomnia are going to have to be choosing what they want to ban out, but Magneto is going to be kept out of their ban reach.
Virtus.pro with the, so far, one-sided Magneto. We'll see if that does continue, as once again they've let it through every time so far. Insomnia, though, not going to let the Loki through, continue to keep that one-sided. But so far, they have given over that Cloak and Dagger almost every single time, and it looks like that might continue as they look at that Torch again instead of the Cloak and Dagger. There's just so little time to fit everything in when you know that these are such big priorities.
Well, you said it yourself, right? Relaxing Knights has had God of Mischief up so many times, they might as well be playing Cloak and Dagger. However, that Terror Cape, that 12-second cooldown cycle of it, has been one major factor in bailing out Virtus.pro in these long overdrawn fights between the two, where having that 28% increased vulnerability on whoever gets hit by it has bought them the ability to absolutely burn a player of Insomnia if the ultimate's on around 2 sustain. As Luna is going to be banned on out for both sides, Magneto is going to be saved from Insomnia, And Virtus Pro now have to think about what they want to try to remove. Sparker, by the way, Psylocke has also been able to get through, which has been happening multiple times. And once more, Virtus Pro remove the Adam Warlock from rotation. So they're going to be the ones with Karmic Revival and no one else.
Moxie, I'm getting deja vu. One Adam Warlock coming in once again. These drafts are identical to the last time with Insomnia. They really do still believe in this. Virtus Pro, they think they may have found the secret source. Removing the Golden God, taking away Adam that we see in Insomnia get so many revives with, and then picking it for themselves. They love this Star-Lord composition with that damage boost, with those revives. It is so hard to get rid of.
Yeah, Insomnia, though, might be adding a Storm to the mix. Lightning might be slightly on the horizon alongside a 12% allied damage boost when the Goddess boost comes on through. Potentially, they're going to use this for Demon to try to match against Sparker, who, like you said, is going to be getting a lot of resources alongside Fi funneled into them with the sheer amount of damage boost that Virtus Pro's composition and backline can output.
The intergalactic empire of Wakanda could see a grand finalist crowned as they have to make their way in with that Bast statue. Defenses will have to be set up by Virtus Pro at this early stage, and they are already, as usual, going to be locking onto that high ground, whereas Insomnia looks like they are going to try and open up with a turret portal to siege on in with a Guardian Barrier. They're going to try and weaken the defenses first using that Storm damage boost.
Yeah, Nevix actually scouted out that it was a portal play, though, so everyone from Virtus Pro just takes one step backwards, and portal gets nothing. However, taking a step backwards frees up the space. Insomnia say, if you're not using it, we absolutely will, and they move in. They're going to be pretty hard, though, to rewrite, as Virtus Pro with the Soul Bomb already sends Fi in with that Blaster Barrage. Everyone gets tethered up by Nevix. They take Fi down, but he'll be back in a matter of moments with the Cocoon coming on through, and Insomnia now been boxed into a very small space with not a lot of angles to hide away, but Demon is still finding these picks on the Punisher.
Absolutely cleaning up there. They now have a damage boost with the help of that Storm. This is a composition we have seen before as well, but it does work. When you're not going to be looking at this Mantis or at this Cloak and Dagger, then you might as well add some extra DPS with the Storm, who's also able to just clean up as well. You have now opened up your options for that Omega Hurricane. Even with an interesting all-out rollback. I don't know what that is.
He was trying high ground. He was trying to get high ground, but he clipped his body ever so slightly into the wall. There we go. It's fine. We've got 2 zip lines. Doesn't matter. Didn't happen. We didn't see it on broadcast. What we are going to be seeing is the final judgment as Virtus Pro tried to send Fi into the mix to just get Demon off of this God angle right now. And he's just getting the full pocket. Guardian Shield, Strangers up there too, making sure that nothing is going to be able to pressure this Punisher off before Insomnia decide to start the fight.
A Loki firing squad, a Doctor Strange, a Guardian Barrier. This is a painful area. They're going to try and force a mispositioning here using this Omega Hurricane. Not going to find anything, so just has to use it for a reposition. That is unfortunate, thanks to that Eternal Bomb being burned so early. But here comes the Media M not finding the pickup, allowing Demon full freedom to counter push in. Another steal onto that Eternal Bomb has set up Insomnia for a push on in towards point number 2. But the Galactic Legend and that Soul Rejuvenation and that Karmic Revival means Virtus Pro are not giving up without a fight.
Huge leap comes out from Saipe onto Forever to make sure that the Eye of Agamotto does not find the vulnerable targets as they come through from that Karmic Revival state. Virtus Pro strike them back. They will return, but stronger. Insomnia denied, deprived of a fast B momentum snowball. Going to have to now try and find a way of getting Demon once more into a much harder position to be able to take, as Virtus Pro have already got the estate of the high ground, but Nocturne on the Storm with that Goddess boost is something that Virtus Pro have to be vigilant of.
Verticality added thanks to the map. They can now try and get up onto that high ground themselves without having to use that zipline, which does still remain in place, but now anyone can follow up if needed. Forever going to be pushing up to the inner high ground of the center tower to make some space, to use that Seraphim Barrier, the Doctor Strange shield, to create openings, to give the protection that allows Storm to creep on up with the lightning strikes.
Omega Hurricane's already been built on the side of Nocta. Insomnia don't want to give up the space that they've been able to buy. Out it comes, right onto Virtus Pro's back line. It's early in the fight. The strategists are stacked. They're healing each other through all of that damage. And Nocta doesn't get caught by their team. They go down to Sparker. Eternal Bond for Eternal Bond. One actual Cloak and Dagger into the Loki copy. Both of these are going to expire at the same time. And that means that Demon just has to survive. The final judgment for this next fight should be the answer that Insomnia are looking for, and Virtus Pro know that the Punisher is holding that ultimate. They've got to stagger at these picks for as long as they possibly can, so that when the portal comes on through from Forever, it's going to be lacking a Loki behind it.
2 minutes and 17 seconds remaining. We see Insomnia. They choose to go with the slow roll. Wait for the Loki to appear. They burn regeneration domain, but it will be back very shortly as they ramp in from behind. High ground taken by Nevix to look for anyone as they come through that portal to go for a bit of a punish. You'll see Starlord hovering on the periphery, waiting for any ambushes. They make their way into the invisible boundary with the final judgment. Meteor End, can they time it with the block? It is just going to get popped.
Parker, though, the second that they saw that portal come through, already isolated himself from the fight. I don't think they even need the Karmic Revival, though. Nevix's Feast of the Abyss comes through after Invis Boundary has expired, and Virtus Pro still have all of the damage when Insomnia run out of resources. This B is proving to be so much harder to be able to capture than A.
They can't get back onto their high ground position. They're getting zoned away. Virtus Pro have completely locked themselves down to make sure that Insomnia cannot break this line. As such, we do see a swap. Sentinel will be bringing out the thing to try and just lock down Fire and Nevix, prevent the backline dive, and of course give that extra protection to Storm or Demon with that embattled leap and the Stone Aegis for the extra protection.
Insomnia think they found the answer against the dive, but here's the thing. Forever comes through with the Meteor M almost getting built up to match Fi's charge, but it's Nocta that they're looking at right now. Omega Hurricane needs to force Virtus Pro's position. Eternal Bond is out on the field for Dridro. Relaxing Knight's copying it, but the Magneto gets pressured out. Fi understood who would be targeting him potentially, and Galactic Legend comes through clean off of the back of Terror Cape, amplifying the damage too. Insomnia denied another fight, but it only comes at the cost of one singular ultimate. God of Mischief is taken out of rotation, and Forever's taken off of the Magneto onto the Captain America because Insomnia have not got that strange portal. They need the Captain America to tap to activate overtime, and that's exactly what Virtus Pro are more than happy to play. The time bank is firmly in their favor as they've still got Karmic Revival in play.
Cap will touch the point. This will give them the overtime as everyone else makes their way into touch. Every person who goes down now, you'll see them swap onto fast rollout characters to give them the turnaround. Nocta is going to be playing the game of chicken, coming in with that Omega Hurricane and the final judgment. They're just going to go for overwhelming presence, and it's working, but Sparker has hidden in the corner. Karmic Revival as they wait out the remainder of the final judgment. Immediately, Demon up to the high ground, cunning turret to try and buy every extra second as that car makes its way forward. Fincy finishing off Nocta as they move on in. The Feast from the Abyss forcing them off the point, taking out the backline. Relaxing Knight falls while Demon is getting flagged by Fi. Nevix comes in for the pickup. Nocta swapping onto the Strange to hope that the portal is off cooldown. Senti moving their way in on the thing. Portal's on the way. They're buying as much time as they can, but it's not gonna be enough. And Insomnia put a stop to at 1.104 meters.
Oh, Rescomp. Oh, Rescomp.
Say it again.
Everyone hates attacking into a Rescomp position because every single time you get a little bit of space, they just come right back, and there's nothing that you can do about it a lot of the time, unless you have things like the Supernova from the Torch to be able to keep a track of where that Karmic Revival spot could be coming from. But no, Insomnia, unfortunately, just having to put the Storm into play so that they have the damage boost to potentially match up against the breakpoints that Virtus Pro have with the Mantis and the Cloak and Dagger on their side.
Dridro is going for penny bombs from the spawn to try and set up. If they find this, they're going full Spider Team. I don't know how much of this is going to make it out, but look out for that feed to see if anyone from Insomnia gets caught by this.
Surely no.
Surely
I'm just gonna take a little bit of time for them to walk through the doors on Garage, but I would assume, given the composition that everyone on the side of them are on, no one's gonna be playing to Garage. We're all gonna be posted up on the high ground to make sure that our Duelist has as much space as possible, especially because Nocta on this Hela, it's go broke or go home. This Hela needs to find these picks. At least with things like that Soul Drainer, you're going to be able to grab someone and force their position, but you do have to worry about being jumped on by a strange portal. So we can already see that Insomnia are playing everyone very much close to home.
Spy has started with a Spider-Man. They might be looking to see if they can get a quick isolation onto someone. Sentinel, once again, on the thing to try and punish, and that will force fight back onto the Star-Lord. But to be fair, it's been working extremely well for them. As Demon forced down to the low ground, they're going to try and push on in. Virtus Pro taking a lot of damage up there, but they, of course, have the building to retreat into.
What a huge Soul Drainer from Nocta connected onto 4 players. However, Dredro is rocketing towards this first Eternal Bond, and there's no one-shot potential on the side of Insomnia. They're going to be able to use it to forge aggressively off of the high ground right into Insomnia's entire forces, and that's going to include point possession as well. Terror Cape comes on through. Nocta is forced back. They have to try and stabilize. Finzy's even on the Captain America just to have the disruption factor against Insomnia, but Relaxing Knights has also been able to keep a pace with the ultimate charge. Out comes the God of Mischief. Their own Eternal Bond has now been forged, and Saipe has to answer back with the Soul Resurgence. The heal on it, so not enough to win the fight, but the Terror Cape off of Dredro will absolutely do, and Demon is forced into investing the Final Judgment, an ultimate trade that Virtus Pro are more than happy to make.
Virtus Pro burned everything and Insomnia backed away. They were able to survive it all. Then Insomnia pushed back Virtus Pro. They traded 1 for 1 and then backed up after burning this big cooldown. And that is where they are struggling, burning this huge cooldown while Virtus Pro are just about to hit that Galactic Legend. Nocta will just be sniped out the sky if they try to move in here. Meteor M to absorb at least some of it and will snipe Cypher as they take down Vi. That is huge for Insomnia as they push on in using that invisible boundary. Karmic Revival will have to be burned inside that central building for the turnaround as they try to reinforce, but already the rest of their team is cleaned out, so they have to regroup, heal up, make their way in, and they get Dredro.
That's huge! Goddess of Death comes through from Nocta directly over Demon's culling turret, and Virtus Pro have no ground to stand on. Dredro building up that Eternal Bond far faster than Relaxing Knights, as the Loki was managing to use the AoE primary heal, but Dredro too was getting to heal so many of those players stacked on up, but they get shut down. Insomnia managed to have the damage to break the Cloak and Dagger's base health form before Dredro gets one of those dashes to start healing them for a second, and that's going to be Insomnia holding on. Nocta doesn't have the Goddess of Death, but Demon is going to have the Final Judgment, and Dredro burned the Eternal Bond. Soul Resurgence might have to be stacked with the Freedom Charge just to survive, as Finzy pops the Freedom Charge early. The dive comes on through alongside the Venom, but the Force Physics from Lurkin forces them backwards, and the Final Judgment is here.
They've gone for the clone once again. Relaxing Knights onto the Cloak and Dagger. Goes for the Dark Force teleport to get up to the high ground to see if they can catch anyone out of position. And it's a lot more cooldowns going to be burned by Insomnia once again. But the fact is, they've held this at 1/3. They burn every cooldown almost every time, but they still have clobbering time. They almost have Media M again, and they are keeping Virtus Pro back.
Navik's Feast of the Abyss, though, is something that you have to be worried about. So too is Fi, all the way on this off angle. Slowly but surely building up that next Galactic Legend. Saipe is starting to go a little bit low, but they have to worry about the Star-Lord. That Blaster Barge has already been able to build up Galactic Legend far faster than Meteor M. And Virtus Pro can double down in this fight before Insomnia have the answers. And Viz Boundary gets used on the point itself for Insomnia to buy themselves the space to build those counters up. And the Galactic Legend comes on through. The Punisher position static, but forever forces 3 players from Virtus Pro back to respawn. Meteor M might not take the planet out, but it takes Virtus Pro's chances out.
The Karmic Revival has revived the chances as they make their way back in, pushing onto the point, and Dridro with the Terror Cape. It is Insomnia being sent to sleep on this first point as Virtus Pro break the line with seconds remaining, and the Statue of Bast is activated.
Oh, and potentially a stagger kill. Yeah, they get Demon. One pick against the Punisher, who had Final Judgment, the thing that Insomnia needed to use to stop Virtus Pro from moving forward, aggressively taking the spaces, getting Phi and Nevix already into an angle where they don't have to burn cooldowns to get the space. They can start in it right from the get-go. This dive is going to be dangerous. Demon Soul, though, has been able to regroup back around the corner. Virtus Pro give the respect, but Sentinel on the thing charges directly into Virtus Pro to stop them from disengaging. Sci-Fi goes down. Trigger tries to find the trade with the Eternal Bond and gets one, gets two, gets three.
Dridro is showing they're not done. They're zoning. They're spawn camping them with that extra Terror Cape. They're showing exactly why this Cloak and Dagger has become the key character of this stage. As the car moves on in, Sentinel will make their way back in Earthbound with the Galactic Legend. Not yet available, but 94% of the way through. Media F getting blocked out by the Iron Bulwark, but no one's on the point. It's GG. Virtus Pro take the map and the series in a 3-1.
What a whiplash. We go from what is going to be a full hold of A into Karmic Revival, and then from there it's just fully in Virtus Pro's hands. I mean, I say that, it's fully in Dridro's hands. That is one of the most aggressive Eternal Bonds that I have ever seen, but the space that it brought the payload to just keep trucking along. And in the meantime, everyone from Insomnia is panicking, having to deal with a Cloak and Dagger in the backline, who, by the way, almost did as much damage as Sparker on the Adam Warlock.
Just cleaning up the damage boosts, the assists, and then flanking into the backline. They only really got countered once by Demon on that Punisher. Every other time, it was just trying to match it with the Loki, which, let's be honest, Relaxing Knights did an insane job, but you can't beat the original.
I mean, yeah, Dridro every 12 seconds, Terror Cape. And every single time, too, they coordinated perfectly. When we were watching Phi's POV to go in with the blaster barrages, he was getting the Bulwark from Finzi. The Terror Cape was directed at the target of focus that the Star-Lord was staring down. They had some amazing combinations where they would utilize the fact that Demon was so static in their movements, and they would just Terror Cape the Punisher and force Insomnia to have to over-invest resources to keep Demon standing. And I mean, this Karmic Revival, too, coming on out. Nevix going over to the Venom as well to make sure that Demon is denied the angle that can potentially be used in overtime to buy the space back for everyone to trade some through out of their spawn. Like, Virtus Pro just had such a good read of the situation. There was a little bit of a struggle on A, but teams struggle on A if you don't manage to find the point off of the first fight. The second that they got A, we were off to the races.
This was a game where you've got to say that the strategists were the ones who made the plays. We talked about Dridro. They were constantly in the backline, constantly getting that vulnerability onto enemies and setting up. Cypher was constantly damage boosting. Fire had some perfect soul rejuvenations, and Sparker. This game would straight up be over if they had not landed a couple of those Karmic Revivals. It's as simple as that. Without those revives, then Insomnia would have been able to push on through and would have been able to hold them at some of these setups. Virtus Pro, they move on to the finals of the groups, but Insomnia are going to be worrying a lot of people in those playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, don't sleep on this team. Absolutely do not sleep on this team. They made it so incredibly close. Like you said, there's some clutch plays from everyone on Virtus Pro's side, but there's just as clutch plays from everyone on the side of Insomnia. Like that free K with the Meteor M was insane. If we hadn't been up against a Karmic Revival composition, that would have been a full hold. Like right then and there, that would have been a full hold. They did such a good job as well of being able to keep the Loki over the Cloak and Dagger, where the neutral was definitely weighted in the side of Virtus Pro, and we even got to see there in the replays when Dredro was using that aggressive Eternal Bond all the way into Insomnia's spawn. It's immediately backed up by Fi just barraging in with the blasters, getting the Magneto bulwark so that everyone goes low, and it's Dredro who's the one who's able to come on through with those last hits. And speaking about coming on through, we're gonna be pulling one of those Virtus Pro players on through to the interview room. Hello and welcome, Finzi.
Hello, thank you.
So, to get things started, because this was definitely a close series, did you expect this to be as close as it actually ended up being?
We haven't played them in a long time, so I actually had no clue how good they were. I expected it to be a bit easier. They played really well, but we won in the end, so that's what matters.
So you guys started adjusting your drafting style as the game went on to start picking up that Adam and taking it away from Insomnia. Is that targeted, or are you just like, are you just seeing Adam rise throughout the priority list here?
Well, we think Atom comps are really good, but when they get Atom and they get Loki, it's kinda makes it harder for us since they have the link for Atom and then they have Loki lamps as well, so they have a lot of survivability. So it makes it really rough if they have both. And since they first protect Loki, then we can't have to take out the Atom at the end.
And Dredro had some amazing Eternal Bonds coming on through where the team got to play super aggressively off of the back of those. How do those get coordinated? Is it essentially Dredro just saying, I'm ulting, everyone follow me?
Yeah. We just make a game plan before the fight and to go with his ult, and then we just all go with it together and we call one target and everyone focuses that target, and yeah, that's how we do it.
And you yourself leading the charge quite a few times with, of course, the Magneto, with the Doctor Strange for the quick reinforcements and landing that 6-man Eye of Agamotto that we literally just saw from that doorway hold. Who makes the communications for that? Are they communicating to you that they're coming through, drop it now, or are you just relying on instinct here?
Well, I saw them all rotate right side, so I know they're gonna go up the ramp to get the high ground, so I just call I'm gonna fly above them and ult, and then I just do a 3, 2, 1, and we all just go at the same time. And since I get everyone, it's really easy to clean it up.
Speaking of ults, but not looking at the Strange, looking at the Magneto, Meteor M is an ultimate that gains a lot of value just from using it and being able to use it as a defensive, but getting a pick off of the back of it, that's something additionally extra, right? How would you try and play a Meteor M to look for a pick? Is that something specific that the team does to make it easier for you to land those?
No, we don't really make like some crazy plays to get a rock kill, but it's mostly waiting for the Atom link to be used or the Loki lamp, since if they have those things and you're really not gonna get a kill with it, or a mag bubble. But I usually just use it defensively, but if I know they don't have Loki lamp, then maybe I call just go with mag ult, die with mag ult, and then we just focus on target and I mag ult it as well.
Let's look ahead now. You are into the finals of your group, which means you have a rematch coming in against Rad. How much have you adjusted your playstyle to prepare for them after that first series, or is it just business as usual for Virtus Pro?
I mean, we definitely changed some things after we lost against them last time, but we also just played really bad last time we played them. So I expect them to do well, but I think it's going to go differently than last time, for sure.
And while we have you here, there's been a lot of discussion and debate about who is the strongest team in the EMEA region. Obviously, Rad being able to pull a win against you goes to show their strengths, but then we also have the likes of Berber Patapim, who was rumored to be the team that everyone thought would be able to go toe-to-toe with you. In your professional opinion, who do you think is stronger out of those two opponents?
We haven't played Berber in like a few weeks now, so I'm not sure how good they are, but they look really good in their matches. So I think it's really even between them being the top two team. It's hard to say since we haven't played Berber in a long time.
Well, you may get the chance to play against them in the playoffs that are coming up. You just have one more series to go before we jump into that for your seed. But you have many opponents coming up with those playoffs, and many people have their eyes on Virtus Pro. What do you have to say for your opponents and for those who are watching and rooting for you?
Thank you for all the support to the fans, and we're gonna do our best for the fans, and the enemy team should be aware that we're back on a winning streak and we're not gonna let it stop this time.
Thank you so much for joining us, Finzi. Congratulations on the win. We'll let you get back to the rest of your day.
Thank you.